This is Tanisha Laverne Grant with blackinamerica.com. I'm super excited today to bring one of my faves to the platform, my fellow Harlem brother, Mr. Amen Joseph, who plays Uncle Jerome on the late John Daniel Singleton Snowfall, which we're now in season 4. Amen, how are you doing this afternoon? So good to see you.
I'm great. I'm positive. I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic for this season. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
I
you're
missed it
welcome.
in person. I missed it in person, but this is the next best thing.
Yeah, right? Y'all are killing it. I mean, season 4. Woo! I mean, I can remember season 1 and being excited about that. And now here we are, season 4. What has it been like returning to set, in the middle of this global health crisis? Like, how have you and your fellow castmates been, giving each other positive, energy despite everything that's going on? We had a big, almost just politically charged climate with Black Lives Matter over the summer, with the murdering of George Floyd in the middle of a global health crisis. And with Snowfall, we know what Snowfall is about, another narrative that really showcases how Black life is marginalized. So just talk a little bit about how you guys have been supporting each other and what your thoughts were like coming back to set.
Well, we were tentative to come back. We came back toward the fall, like it was around September 1st when we got back. We went on hiatus, if that's what you want to call it, for COVID. That was around mid-March. I think it was around March 12th.
Yep.
So it was a pretty, it was a pretty big chunk of time. And as we know, we had the summer of, George Floyd, and we were dealing with the social distancing in the various places where we live. We have an international cast. So that cast, a lot of those cast members had to go back home. Some of them tried to stay here thinking that, that that things would be better, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, into the second month, a lot of people went back home. Sergio went to Spain. Damson went back to the UK.
Yeah.
And, we were sitting in wait. And I think it was a great time for everyone to really get in touch with themselves, with their family, their community, from a socially distance, of course. But then, the happenings with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter somewhere, as I kind of pointed. And it filled not only the cast, but our society at large with a lot of emotions, a lot of things that have been suppressed. And even with a show like Snowfall that, speaks truth to power, or does put a lens or focus on, almost like a telescope, or a 30,000 foot view at the war on drugs, the war on Black and brown communities. Here we were, this was real life, and that real life implications of what were going on in the summer left a lot of us disenchanted. What does it mean to tell a story like Snowfall when this is what we're going through right now?
Yeah.
So the cast had we had a lot of, talks with each other, the various ways like this, through Zoom, or, just FaceTime chats, and we spoke, and we were candid, and we often thought, what would John Singleton be doing during a time like this? We knew that he would be speaking truth to power. We knew that he would want to tell the type of stories that we have, where we make giants of the people in our community and our culture, and just continue to tell our stories unapologetic.
You guys have been doing an amazing job. Of course, I'm a Snowfall fanatic. I've been following, just the evolution of the show, and just, it's so great to see just the evolution of the characters and the evolution of the individual skill sets that each talent brings to the character. What do you love most about Uncle Jerome Saint? First of all, Twitter goes off over them some Uncle Jerome. I'm saying it just like that. When I see, first of all, there are full out op-ed pieces just about how sexy Uncle Jerome is. Okay.
I
And
don't
then
know
there are the
about the
op-ed, wait
sexy
a
part.
minute. And then there are the op-ed pieces like, have y'all seen Amen Joseph's Uncle Jerome? Like, I can't get enough of it. I love it. I love it.
I think Uncle Jerome is starting to take too much attention away from me. I'm not like
Don't be a hater.
I
Don't be
don't
a
like
hater.
this, but
Don't be
it
a
feels
hater.
good to see that the fans, appreciate the individual work, but more importantly, that we have additional fans this season. I think one of the things about the pandemic is that it has made people binge perhaps shows that they may have missed. We
Yeah.
understand that there's a lot of content out, and people just don't have enough time in their lives of doing the things that are important to them always to binge a show if they've if it's already past the first season and they didn't catch it from its inception. So because of the pandemic, I think people are a little bit more at home, so they were able to stream it, on Hulu, which is next day after it airs on FX. So that, I think, gave us an additional, like a new influx of fans, and
No, you do.
fun to
I'm
see them
telling
on
you.
Twitter.
I'm
It's fun to
telling
see,
you.
it's cool to see people enjoy the show, because I do think that there is a subliminal message in there, that is about protecting our community and looking at the contrast between the way that cheap drugs were used to really finance a war overseas, and for us to realize that a lot of these nefarious things can still be going on now, to stay awake, to be diligent about the way that we protect each other in society and our communities now.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Amen. As a Bison Howard University alumna, your fellow alum, Kamala Harris, is now Vice President of the United States. How does that make you feel, Black man? How does that make you
Listen,
feel?
you see me. Listen. I love the fact that Kamala is a Bison, but more importantly, I love the fact that she's a Black woman, and she has the second highest seat in power in this USA, and that, to me, is a blessing for us all to have some actual spirit in the White House. Is important to me. It's important to my ancestors, and I'm really ecstatic, and I can't wait. What I really can't wait for is when we're able to celebrate.
Yeah.
We weren't able to celebrate because of the social distance measures because of COVID, but trust. Hopefully by homecoming eve, we might be able to really throw the type of party that only Bisons can throw, only HBCUs can throw. We may get that opportunity to do that this homecoming. So I will be there in the flesh, and I will be rocking for my sister and all of our alum. There's a history, there's a legacy, and we need to always be ecstatic about our history, our legacy, our people.
Yeah.
So,
I may have to come through, very solid of you. I leave Cheney, the oldest HBCU, founded in 1837. But this is historic. This is historic. And I wonder, how does it make you feel as a father of a little girl who gets to see, Kamala in this position? Like, she's starting her life with a Black woman in the
amazing.
White House.
I'm going to be able to show her pictures. We are already, getting little books for beginning readers. My daughter she's about to turn 3. So she's starting to, pick up her vocabulary and learn words. And that's the type of content that you want to put in front of her, things that are going to build her imagination and let her know about our culture, build those things, that pride in our culture at a very early age. So this is amazing. I mean, a lot of young kids have seen Barack Obama and they've seen Kamala Harris. It's just like, this is a really good start Yeah, and I'll be able to always point to the screen and say that that's a Bison. Her mom went to Hampton, so that's another HBCU. So
Wow.
it's just a lot of love, it's a lot of legacy,
I
and
love that. I
it's just
love that.
it's perfect.
That legacy is big. My father is a fellow Cheney University alum.
Yeah,
We graduated 20 years apart from each other. So, I mean, I was
that
going to
legacy
Cheney.
is so important.
Yeah, regardless, wherever my daddy went, that's where I was going, non-negotiable. It wasn't even like a thought. I mean, it was just like, okay, that's where I'm going. Amen. I love to talk about, Black fathers and fatherhood for obvious reasons. How has fatherhood changed you? And your outlook on life and how you move in the world now versus Amen prior to being a dad?
I think the biggest thing is just the responsibility and accountability that you have to be the steward, to be the caregiver, not necessarily the authoritarian in a young soul's development. I would like to, to put in the intangible code, the moral, the value, and then and do that in a way that is uplifting and supportive, so that this young soul can develop and be, and follow her destiny. Yeah. And that isn't the kind of, you just don't have that scope when you're a single man or even married but don't have children. The legacy that you leave through them is more than just setting up a will and a trust. And those are very important things that you do think about once you have children even more. So that is pertinent, and that's something that I've worked on as well. And I think that's very important, especially for Black families, is that we talk a lot of time about, legacy building or the culture or, community. How are we setting up? How are we continuing to make our, how are we passing on generational wealth tangibly? That's really important. So you start thinking of things like that. But more importantly, it's like, what type of person am I to influence the type of person that I would love her to be? That's a lot of accountability there. And that's an everyday thing to live up to that, to being a father.
Let me tell you something, Amen. I will miss my father for the rest of my life. And your firstborn is a daughter. And let me tell you something, there will be no other relationship to match the relationship that you will have with your daughter. That will be the only relationship that you ever have with a human being that is not transactional. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Like
it's real. We would like to think that type of love, that agape, that love that is not transactional, or that people would love you no matter what. A mother's love for her child is something also that I've been able to witness and marvel in as well. And I think it all comes back to love. It all comes back to being in relationships where you giving feels so good, and it allows you to evolve. It allows, fatherhood has allowed me to evolve. If you're not, if you're not evolving, you're stagnant. You could be dying. This allows me to live. It allows me to live through, not just from an egotistical way of your name being moved, fathers or fathers wanting to have sons, but the fact that I really get to watch this young soul do everything in this physical plane for the first time. And how can I make that an easier journey without getting in the way, without messing it up, without not letting her experience, joys and failures.
You just, you know, you
It's
just,
very rich. That whole
yeah,
experience is just very rich.
yeah. You just show up. You just be there and you just guide. You know, my father was my biggest coach, my best friend, my ally, and my accountability partner. You know, I can remember being in a pageant. I'm a former Miss Chain University, and I can remember participating in a pageant in Atlanta. It was a Miss Hall of Fame pageant, and I lost. You know, and we were backstage, and my father comes in to, you know, make sure I'm okay, and to
Mhm.
make sure that I am also showing good sportsmanship. And he says, you know, did you congratulate the winner? And I'm like,
Forgot all about that. Who, me?
and he like puts his hand on my arm, like really firm, and was like, what are you doing? That those girls prepared. You thought you were coming from the north, all hoity-toity, like you had this in the bag, and them girls down south, they spanked you. And so you take your punishment, you take your lessons, but more than anything, you represent the queendom. You're a queen. Well, then you learn how to lose royally too.
Right.
And that was an aha moment for me. Amen. Number one, I would never ever again be caught slipping in my work.
Like, I'm not going to lose like that again.
Yeah, you know. But to go back to your point, I mean, it's about being there and just being firm. My father was like, you're not going to embarrass me. You're going to congratulate her. You're not going to embarrass yourself. And you're not going to embarrass God and the ancestors and everybody in your bloodline who made this moment possible for you. Do better by it next time. And those are the life's
Real.
lessons. Those are the
So
life's
real.
lessons,
And those lessons, you know, you continue getting those lessons throughout life. There's things that my father has said to me that it is only at this age that oh wow, oh that's what he meant.
Mm-hmm.
But that seed had been planted as a boy, you know, as a young boy. He had been saying certain things to me that I can only see come to fruition once I get to a certain place where the student is ready for the teacher, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about having people with that, you know, unconditional love, pour love and spirit into you at a young age, and you're able to, you know, because yes, not everyone will always be on this physical plane, and sometimes, you know, sometimes fathers and mothers lose their, I mean, you know, they lose their children. You know what I mean? Think of
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
that energy, all of that spirit and intention that goes
Yeah.
into their children that feels lost, you know? So it's a world that needs a lot of love, a lot of compassion, and definitely having children make you, you know, you sit in that in the
Yeah.
moment much more.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. I don't have children of my own, you know. I do have a nephew that I absolutely adore. And I have, you know, my mother and my sister. And
Mm.
now I have my father, you know, operating in the spiritual realm. You know, I know he is advocating, asking on my behalf, advocating for me and my sister to the great God in heaven to take care of his baby girls, you know, and that is what gives me solace, you know, and he was by the book, you know, made sure he had his will and trust and all of that, you know. And again, that's a lesson, you know, reminding me and my sister that, you know, you have these things in order because even in his passing, we worry for nothing.
That's right.
We worry
That's,
for nothing.
that is so great to hear. That is a lesson for me and for a lot of other men and women that, you know, watch this, wherever, you know, our voices can be heard. You know, we can say we love people, but there's also the action part of doing things while we're here on this physical plane where our hands can actually move to do things here on this plane.
Mm,
It is really important that we take care of the things that we say we want to take care of, because a lot of times the grief of losing someone is compounded by also having to take care of the things that they could have taken care of while they were here. And it
yeah,
leaves people not able to grieve and to rejoice and to transcend that into, happiness, joy, it becomes a burden, another obstacle. So yeah, it's really important to do that. And that doesn't have to be, I don't think that has anything to do, that type of intention has nothing to do with whether or not you have a lot of monetary or a lot of assets or anything like that. It's just being intentional with the people that you love,
Yep. And it's just another reminder of, just the blessing that God gave me and my sister in the form of our father, because we were just everything my dad left it was all done. It was all done, and that's what life is about. That's what love is about. I definitely will have this content for our Father's Day series for sure. But I want to get back to Snowfall and just begin to wrap this up. You're one of my faves. I love having the opportunity to speak with you. Walter Mosley is one of the executive producers, the legendary, iconic Walter Mosley. What have you learned, from Walter Mosley and being on set with him? Do you want to get into more directing and writing and executive producing? Like, I've seen you, speaking of like COVID and watching things, I've seen you in quite a few movies. I'm like, oh my God, that's Amen. I didn't know you were in that. I didn't know you were in that. I think I saw about 4 movies that you were in. I'm like, look at Amen go. So what does the future look like for you?
I definitely have my aspirations of producing, which I've already stepped my foot in, and directing. But, I'm an actor first. That's my first language of storytelling. And I'm not quite finished with this medium. As far as directing, I would love, the opportunity to further my sharpen my skills. I look at the type of directors that I've been able to work under and watch and shadow. Yeah. It's been a blessing, to be able to watch people like John Singleton and hear his innermost thoughts on how to tell, on storytelling. It's been amazing. So I want to continue to do that. And the same thing with Walter. Walter, his pen is ferocious, and just to be able to read his fiction and then step into seeing how he writes his screenplays, teleplays it's also, because those are different mediums. So, there's sometimes it can feel a bit like you're in over your head to really look at some of the talent that it takes to make something like Snowfall. But I love working, I love Walter's words. So we've done 2 episodes that Walter has written so thus far this season, and he's just a wordsmith. A lot of the things that he puts, a lot of the little sayings that Jerome has, they definitely come from Walter Mosley.
Wow.
We miss John in that way.
Yeah.
But John was definitely someone that I would go to and say, "Hey, John, what is this?" And Dave Andrew.
Hold on a second, not to cut you off, but what was that line from? Was it season 2? Must have been season 2. And I think Jerome had a line where it was something like 10 Commandments. Like, what was that line?
Oh, some biblical shit or something up to that. Yeah. It was.
I'm so upset now.
210. It was John Singleton's episode. I think that was Dave Andron. Like I said, Dave comes up with a lot of the colloquial things that Jerome says as well. I think that was 210, and we were in No,
but I think that was John's line. That one commandment, like, what did you say? Like, we killing everybody, like some 10 commandments. What was it?
Biblical something.
Oh,
biblical, and I think I'm gonna bring everything. It's gonna be on some 10 Commandments type stuff. It was when Franklin had gotten beaten up in lockup, and Leon had a great scene after that. John Singleton directed that episode.
Woo! Man.
John directed that episode.
Yeah. It was the final episode of each season. It was heartbroken when he passed. Still seems unreal. still seems unreal that he is not here in the body. You know, what would you like to say to John if he were here today? If you could just, if he would jump in on the Zoom right now.
Well, I don't have to. I don't have to. Do a plaything with that. I talk to John all the time. I talk to Big Brother all the time.
I love that.
Sometimes my mind settles on his spirit, and I talk to the Big Brother, and I ask, are we doing this right? I ask him, for the strength and for the integrity and clarity to perform to the best of my abilities, like I do with all my ancestors. And he is now someone in that spirit realm that can lead me and give me strength on this plane, as we tell stories that, I don't know how many filmmakers met their demise while they were actually producing something. Well, that's on, network television right now, and to see his vision fully come to fruition is a circle of truth around my head. So I do my part. I think that we have a tremendous spirited cast that feel the same way, and we have enough people at the so-called powers that be at our network and studio that want to continue telling his story. So it's a lot to live up to, no doubt. So of course, sometime I'm gonna have to, hey, yo, John, what's up?
Yeah.
Where you at, brother?
Yeah.
So I always, he was very influential to me. I learned a lot from him, and I hope to continue to learn, to be steered, to be open, open to listen.
I love that. Amen. I love that. How are you different from stepping on set for the first time in season 1 to being in season 4 today? How are you different as an actor?
As an actor, I've never lived with a character this long. And there's pluses and minuses to that, like anything. There's a trade-off. And even physically, emotionally, living with the character, the point of view, when you work so hard, when you do put a lot into a character, that character stays with you. And usually with any other production, I'm able to, do a ritual of letting that character go, letting those feelings, letting those emotions go. Well, with this particular character, because, we're lucky enough to be in our 4th season, finished our 4th season, that's 4 years, and 4 years over 5.5 years that you live with Jerome Saint along with Eamon. Out of maybe 4 months out of a year, I'm Jerome Saint. And this is a big thing for just artists, period. We have to always have ways of getting back to who we are and who we are for who we are in our lives, and that separation is sometimes very difficult because there's lasting things of the psychology of the character that you're playing. And if you're really giving yourself to the character, there'll be some residual that will come into your life. So I've learned, how to let go and how to put this character on, and for it not to be such a heavy load, but to be able to modulate how much of Eamon I give to the character, and how much of the character I let flow into my own life. It's a real balance when you really care and you really submit to the process of picking up a character.
That's amazing. I often wonder, and I'm always curious about what the process is, how an actor decompresses.
Quite honestly, a lot of times we look at actors and we go, wow, they look very eccentric, you know, in real life. And of course, we all have different colorful personalities and all that. But I can tell when a lot of our actors just haven't been being able to take care of themselves after they play certain roles.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, definitely. It's big. You can also see it with a lot of our musicians. A lot of our musicians may put on certain personalities to you know, inform the music, and then you watch in their real lives how they take on that persona, and even sometimes to their own detriment.
Yeah.
It's playing with fire and not knowing how to psychologically get out of these things, and that's what makes you a professional, to be able to get in and out, not so much being able to do it.
Woo! Amen. You never cease to amaze me. You never cease to amaze me. I cannot wait to get this interview out, because what you just said needs to be heard. Artists around the world need to hear that, because that is something, it's so crazy, because we live in this culture now where everybody wants to be a personality of some sort. We got all the social media components and brands, you know, and people are one way on the social media, you know, and they're not living their truth even in their real lives. And it's a dance with the devil. It's a dance with the devil, because you have to, in order to feel whole, you got to be true to yourself.
Or know how to get back there is what I would say. You know where that lands for you, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a deeper way to answer your question about, you know, what I've learned. But though that is the thing that I have most learned.
Yeah.
Is just that, you know, that these jobs require us to use a lot. And when you put so much intention of you praying to be the best version of yourself for whatever said role, and the imagination that you bring to that creativity, the collaboration with other artists that are really talented and also emotionally and spiritually charged, and the intelligence that goes in with that's a beautiful mixture that should be respected, and a process of doing it and a process of releasing it.
Yeah. As in everything. You know, Amen. It's always great to talk to you. This was more than I thought it was. I'm like, wow, I've had all this time. This is great. It's great.
Awesome. It's awesome to talk to you again. Hopefully we can do this in another version, another season, another iteration of this, and be back in the flesh.
I know. From your mouth to God's ears. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Amen Joseph, who plays Uncle Jerome Saint on the late John Daniel Singleton's Snowfall. It is in season 4. If you have not seen Snowfall, now is the time to get caught up. You cannot begin with season 4. You got to watch the whole way through. They got to watch. Tell them, Jerome, they got to watch the whole way through.
Yeah, you can binge it on Hulu, all 4 seasons.
Yep, there you go. Thank you so much. Amen. Again, Tanish Laverne Grant, Black in America.